Yo guys, it's Spider-Bite here. We're gonna go a little in-depth on presumably what is the next Zombies map, Mob of the Dead, located in Alcatraz. We're gonna assume all this information that we've posted is correct and that we will be taking the role as Prohibition-era mobsters. Mob of the Dead, mobsters, yes, good fit. Alcatraz, penitentiary, hey, we're penned up. Zombie apocalypse, what the hell? Anyways, Prohibition. Do you guys know about Prohibition? Man, Prohibition from 1920 to 1933, it was a national ban in the United States on the sale, manufacture, and transportation of alcohol. I mean, it was called the dry movement. I mean, they just banned it. And there's still dry zones in the U.S. I mean, I've gone down to trips to manufacturing plants, and we've gone through these dry zones. It's like, can I get a beer with my dinner? No, we're a dry zone. You have to go to the next county. It's like, WTF, I want a beer, man. Anyways, yeah, this dry movement was led by rural Protestants in both political parties and was coordinated by this anti-saloon league. But really what this ended up doing was creating this vacuum of gangsters and mobs and gangs and, you know, the trafficking of alcohol illegally, obviously, right? I mean, who's the biggest one of them all? Al Capone. Where did Al Capone get sent when he got imprisoned for tax evasion? He was sent to Alcatraz. He spent years in jail at Alcatraz, and he did not die there. He died after he had been released. He was in Alcatraz, and he got sent to another prison for failing to file tax return for a year, and then he got released, and I think he died in Florida. But anyways, the alcohol ban, and you know what's crazy? I got a little fact for you, is that there's a brewery here in Ontario. I think it was in Toronto. I'm not sure if it was in Toronto at the time, but and there were breweries in Canada that would smuggle alcohol over to the States. And I believe Steam Whistle, they actually did a radio spot and or it was a television spot, and they mentioned that they actually made deliveries for Al Capone for from their Steam Whistle brewery. I don't know if it was called Steam Whistle at the time, but way back when, yeah, Canada was feeding you guys alcohol. Oh yeah. Canada for the win. See? We were your friendly neighbors up north, eh? So what I really wanted to get at here, and if we are in fact going to be playing as these mobster characters, well, which ones are we going to be playing? I would think they'd go with the most notorious mobsters there were during that time frame. Prohibition was 1920 1933. And the biggest one here being Al Capone. I mean, Al Capone was actually imprisoned in Alcatraz. Now, I don't think we're necessarily going to be playing only mobsters that were imprisoned in Alcatraz, but, you know, he's being not only the biggest mobster, but also being imprisoned in Alcatraz. It only makes sense. If we're not playing as Al Capone, then that's kind of silly. So a little bit of history on Al Capone. He moved to Chicago in 1920. He worked for a guy named Johnny Torrio, and in 1925, Torrio was nearly killed by a rival gang, and he got out. He got out of the criminal world while he was still alive, obviously, and he handed over everything to Capone. Within 2 years, and he, you know, we're talking 1927, Capone was earning $60 million a year. $60 million, $1927. Are you freaking kidding me? And with an additional approximately $45 million a year from other stuff. I mean, the $60 million was from alcohol sales, pure alcohol sales. I mean, what the hell? I don't know, these stupid laws. Oh, let's ban alcohol and make some gangsters rich and cause a lot of shit. I mean, Chicago was like, you know, people were dying every single day. At any rate, he went to jail for tax evasion. He was at first in Atlanta, the Atlanta federal pen, but there were a lot of things going on there. Apparently Al Capone was probably bribing guards, and he was living the life in prison. So they transferred him into Alcatraz in 1934. So he spent about 5 years at Alcatraz and was transferred in 1939 to Terminal Island to serve 1 added year, as I mentioned, for a misdemeanor of failing to file a federal income tax return. And when he was released, he spent his time at a family home in Florida and died in 1947, January 25th, 1947. Another notorious mobster who was imprisoned in Alcatraz was Machine Gun Kelly. George Celino Barnes, better known as Machine Gun Kelly, was an American gangster during the Prohibition era. His nickname came from his favorite weapon, a Thompson machine gun. Now, I'm probably going to do a separate video on what I think may be a possibility for some weapons that we'll see in Alcatraz Mob of the Dead. But yeah, Thompson, baby! I know how much you guys love to see me shoot the Thompson. His most famous crime was the kidnapping of oil tycoon and businessman Charles Urschel in July 1933, and he collected a $200,000 ransom for his return. Now, he spent 22 years, basically the remainder of his life, in prison and 17 years in Alcatraz. He got the nickname Pop Gun Kelly because apparently he was not, he was like a model prisoner. He was nowhere near some tough mobster gangster that his wife made him out to be prior to being imprisoned. He was working in the prison industries. He was boasting and exaggerating his past escapades to other inmates, and was quietly transferred to Leavenworth in 1951, died of a heart attack at Leavenworth in 1954. Now, there were definitely some other notorious inmates, some of them mobsters, some of them not. One that stands out is Robert Stroud, and they called him the Birdman. Now, he only killed one person from what I see on Wikipedia. I mean, they're not always correct, but what else do I have to go on? He killed one person, and he turned himself in, but I believe he killed one or more people while in prison. But I wouldn't necessarily call him a mobster or gangster, and may not be a playable character here on Mob of the Dead. There are a few other people. Alvin Creepy Karpovich spent 25 years in the Rock, and he's one of the inmates that spent the most time there. I think there were only 4 years that Alcatraz was running as a penitentiary that he wasn't in prison there. The most famous and feared inmates, some people say it was Robert Stroud, the Birdman, and he got that name, Birdman of Alcatraz, but he didn't keep birds at Alcatraz. He kept it at when he was previously incarcerated at Leavenworth before he went to Alcatraz. So I don't know if that's technically correct or what. When it came to out of control malevolence, the guy who most Alcatraz inmates feared was Jimmy Grove. So I still think it remains a possibility that we may play as mobsters who were not incarcerated in Alcatraz, such as Pretty Boy Floyd, Bonnie and Clyde, Babyface Nelson, Ma Barker, and John Dillinger. They were never imprisoned in Alcatraz, but they were very, very notorious gangsters during that era. And I believe all of them were hunted down and killed by the law instead of, incarcerating them. Hey, it's cheaper that way, isn't it? Okay, so that's a rundown of the possibilities here. Perhaps, maybe, it would be nice to have a female character. Obviously, there were no female inmates, I believe. I don't think so at Alcatraz. But it would be nice to have a female character. I mean, they have, in the past, Call of the Dead. If they're trying to mimic Call of the Dead here with Mob of the Dead, then perhaps they will incorporate. Maybe it'll be Bonnie and Clyde will be the two playable characters. Anyways, guys, that's all for now from NGTZombies, the learning channel. Again, being very speculative with this stuff, but hey, it's a hell of a lot of fun. And hey, maybe you learned something, right? Maybe you didn't know all about Prohibition. Maybe you didn't know about some of these gangsters. Obviously, you knew about Al Capone. Come on. How could you not know about Al Capone? But we'll be posting some more videos following up on information, background, history, whatever else we can dig up. We'll bring it to you guys in NGT time. That's right. I said that. NGT time. Leave a comment, guys. What do you think? I'm Spider, and I'm out.